Greetings and salutations, viewers of YouTube. This is your storytelling pal, Big Al. Welcome back to my channel. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell, all that good jazz. Couple of disclaimers before I start with the story. These stories are kind of sort of true as I best remember them. If I have to fudge a fact here or there to make it a funnier story, I'm going to. And if I try to only use first names in these stories. I will also, for privacy's sake, if someone has not behaved themselves well, I will change a name, to a fake name for privacy. But if you recognize yourself in one of these stories, or, you recognize someone you know in one of these stories, hey, thanks for the memory. Also, second disclaimer. I know not everyone's going to like my storytelling style or me or, whatever. I really don't care. This is just a space to have fun. I'm just doing it so that the people that do get it can get some laughs out of it. And if you know, you know. And if you're not someone that gets it, hey, go watch someone else's channel. If you make a bunch of comments, or if you try to start a political or religious debate in my comment section, I'm just going to delete it, so don't bother. With that said, hope everyone gets some laughs out of this, and on to the story. So, my friend James, that I previously mentioned in Volume 7 of these stories, I was passing through the New York City area. He was living in Connecticut. It was right around the time of his 40th birthday. And so I had called him and said, hey, let's try to get together for your birthday. And so we agreed, and we thought New York City is really close by, so we'll just hang out in New York City. And we got to looking at the train schedule, and this was on a Friday night, and the last train coming back to Connecticut was leaving at, I think it was 10 or 11 p.m. And we just thought that was too early to call it a night. And now, in James and I's history, when we were in our early 20s, there were a lot of nights in college where we would be out all night together. And, 5 a.m. would roll around, and we'd stroll over to the High Burger Inn, eat a burger and fries, and then go home and crash. So James and I had spent a lot of nights together, just kind of out and about town. And, in our early 20s, that was great. We had, it didn't seem to affect us. A lot of fun. So we're like, hey, just like we used to do, we'll spend all night in New York City. So, the night starts off great. We go to this restaurant that James wanted to go to and have a big time. We go out and sing karaoke in this bar near the United Nations. We're just having a really great time, kind of, just walking around in Manhattan. And I know New York City has a reputation as the city that never sleeps. And it may never sleep, but I will say this. Between about 3 and 5 a.m., it sure slows the fuck down. And so, 3 to 5 a.m., we're walking around and we can't find, really any place that's open. And Grand Central Station is not open. We were thinking that if we could just sit down and wait on our train, that would be preferable to just having to keep hoofing it around. And so this was my first time being back in New York City since 9/11. And so I was like, I just want to go see that. And James was like, okay, cool. So we get in this taxi. And, we're riding in this taxi, and I keep looking out the window, and I'm looking at the distance between our door, the door of our cab, to the door of the cab right next to us. And I keep thinking, that's awfully close. And then 2 or 3 times we touch, and the cab driver just acts like nothing happened. It was crazy. So we get down to the 9/11 site. This was before they had the memorial up or any of that stuff. I mean, it basically was, just a construction site at that point. And walk around a little bit down there. I mean, by this point, it's like, about 4:15 in the morning. And so, after about 10 or 15 minutes, it's like, well, I paid my respects, let's get back on up toward Grand Central Station. So we get another ride from another crazy cabbie. And so we get back into the kind of, I guess, the Midtown area around Grand Central Station. And we finally see someplace that's open. And I mean, at that point, it was just like a godsend because both James and I were just completely dragging ass. And I think I have in previous times I've told this story, I called it a bodega. But it was some type of little, store that you could order food from, like at a restaurant, but they also had like groceries and stuff. Very ethnic. I cannot remember what ethnicity because I was like dead dog tired, but it was some type of ethnic thing. And James got this like really nice breakfast. I have more simple taste, so I just got like a bowl of Frosted Flakes. And we get done eating, and we take a few minutes to just kind of sit there. And by this point, James and I are not even talking to each other anymore because that takes too much effort. Like, we're just kind of staring across the table at each other, like mouth breathing and just like, kind of trying to find the strength to finish up this adventure. And so Grand Central Station opened, I guess it was at about 6 or 7, and our train gets ready to leave, and I sat down on that train, and like I was out. Like, I don't even remember the train leaving the station or anything. And the next thing I know, James is embracing me because his stop was actually a few stops before the stop that my car was parked at. And because I'd picked him up from work, and we'd gotten on the train there where he worked, which was a few stops down from where he actually lived. So he's hugging me and trying to tell me goodbye, and I'm like barely awake. I mean, I didn't even know it was him hugging me when when I first kind of came to enough to realize I was being hugged. And so he releases me from the hug, and I just, I didn't so much sit back down as I fell back down, and almost immediately I was back asleep, or maybe immediately. And so the next thing I know, the train has come to a complete stop. And when I woke up, there was this teenage girl that was kind of staring at me with kind of this slight smile on her face. And I was hurting. Like, I was in bad shape. And the conductor was the one that woke me up, and he's like, "Sir, you have to get off the train. We're at the last stop." And I told him what stop I was trying to go to, and he goes, "Oh, that's like 5 stops back. You're going to have to catch a train going back toward the city, and we'll help you. Just, we'll let you know when it's time to get off." And so the train staff were so nice. They were very helpful, kind of contrary to the image a lot of people have of New York City is in the area around it as being really rude. I've always had a great time there. Always found really nice people there. And so they, sure enough, wake me up, get me off the train at my proper stop. And so then I've got to get in my car. And I had actually called my cousin who lived in Norfolk at the time. And I was like, "Hey, I'm going to drive down and see you today." And so I started driving, and I did drive long enough that I could not tell you where I was along the Connecticut-New York border. Like, it's just completely gone from my memory. But I basically drove roughly about 8 or 9 miles and quickly realized this is not safe. This is not good. And so I ended up stopping and getting a hotel. And, like, it's like 10 a.m. and I'm trying to check into a hotel for that night. Like, before people are even really done checking out from the previous night. I'm sitting there trying to check in. Fortunately, they were really nice and let me do so. So thanks to them. But all in all, it was one of those things that James and I found out that we may not be as good as we once were, as the song says, because New York City sure kicked our ass trying to stay out all night. So hope y'all enjoyed that story. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good jazz. And hope you're having a good one. I am out.